is Morning at NTV. And just in case you're streaming us live, how about you tag that friend? Yes, that friend who has always wanted to understand what blockchain is and how financial sector will be revolutionized thanks to this particular technology that is taking over the tech sector. Of course, we'll try and link it to AI as well, because that has been our conversation, especially last week. We were heavy on that as well. So in studios, I'm joined by Ms. Rashmi Pillai. She is the ED of Financial Sector Deepening Uganda. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, and good morning to your viewers.
Good morning. Next to me on this right side is Mr. Kwame Rugunda. He is the CEO of Crypto Savannah right here in the country. By the way, they are the initiators of the Africa Blockchain Conference that will be taking place tomorrow and Thursday.
Correct.
All right, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and good morning, viewers.
Good morning. All right, so we've been having conversations to do with blockchain.
Yes.
It's becoming an okay word amongst many, but people don't understand what blockchain, the blockchain technology pretty much entails. So break it down for us this morning. Please don't use jargon.
Good morning, viewers.
For the sake of our viewers.
And it's a pleasure to be here. I think in the simplest form, what blockchain essentially is, it is a way of transferring digital value. And that is the most simple, basic form, where digital value could mean money, could mean a digital asset, could mean any component that that is of a digital nature and is being transferred from one party to another directly.
So try and link that to cryptocurrencies, because
Correct.
that has been the conversation, and people actually, a majority think that, you know what, blockchain is this big elephant on this side and then cryptocurrencies on this other side. So try and link that together,
Absolutely.
especially for the business people who have been thinking, okay, fine, I've been having so many questions, but I ought to understand this now.
Okay, so there's three important components to realize here. There's blockchain, there's Bitcoin, and there's cryptocurrencies.
Right.
Those three components. Now, blockchain is the underlying technology upon which series of applications are built. The first of those applications is cryptocurrencies. So cryptocurrency, just like any other crypto or digital asset, needs a platform upon which it can be securely transferred. So that platform, that technology is called blockchain. So it's just like saying email is an application on the internet. So cryptocurrencies are an application on blockchain. Now, Bitcoin is one of the cryptocurrencies and the firstborn of the cryptocurrencies. So Bitcoin is an application on the blockchain. So blockchain is the technology, cryptocurrencies, smart contracts, and several others are applications that are built on this technology.
All right, okay.
I hope that makes some sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
But of course, we'll come to you. We are streaming live on social media, so I'll float all the questions to you for my business people who want to understand this better. Rashmi.
Yes.
Financial sector deepening Uganda has been at the forefront ensuring that, you know what, financial inclusivity becomes a reality in Uganda. I remember even when we did have the OTT tax being reintroduced. It's now 1 year, 1 day down the line, and we had you right here. So before we link blockchain to financial, inclusion, just bring us up to speed now that we are 1 year into the OTT. What have been the effects of the same? With regards to financial inclusion, us realizing financial inclusion in the country?
Okay, so first and foremost, thank you for having me on your studio. It's great to be with Kwame here. Briefly talking about taxation and the implication of fiscal policy on financial inclusion. So when we had the social media tax and then we had the tax on mobile money, so we will separate them out. So when we had the tax on mobile money, especially before the amendment, you had a tax on deposits, tax on transfers, and tax on cash outs. There was an immediate panic in terms of the volume of payments going heavily down, and you had mobile wallet companies experiencing a 40% decline in payments. But after the amendment came in, where it was only 0.5% on cash out, you saw the payments gradually steady over time. But what you are, I think some of us who are proponents of financial inclusion feel that we need to study some of these effects even more to understand it better, because payments is only one piece of the financial inclusion puzzle. You want people to deposit, save more, have more credit, insurance and pensions in the formal financial sector. And if you create more friction, are you incentivizing them or disincentivizing them? Those are some of the questions that we want to ask. And now you're coming to social media. I think it's not, you're talking about convenience, and that's where the origins of the tax came from. What nobody's actually investigated is the gender exclusion that the social media tax actually, as a byproduct could have created.
Gender exclusion. Wow.
The reason I say this is because if you look at Facebook, WhatsApp, you look at Facebook has Facebook stores. You can sell your bakery goods, your tailor carpentry goods, and a lot of women who are stay-at-home moms would like or don't have the capital to set up a shop. Actually, your entire Facebook album is your inventory of everything that you're producing, whether they're cakes or clothes or dresses. And now and therefore you could have a WhatsApp conversation with some of your customers, send your pictures, and then pay mobile money, and a Boda guy would drop the goods.
Correct.
So it was sort of a logistics-based, entirely remote conversation. And if it fails, the entire cost of your enterprise failing was the cost of the data bundle, right? Now you start adding taxes on that, you are potentially creating barriers to new businesses, especially women. And this is something that we would like to understand better.
So how do we crack that shell? Because clearly government is not going back on the same. So what are the options or solutions, so to speak, that especially now that you're saying that them that are most affected are the women, that gender issue.
Yeah.
So what is the ultimate solution, therefore?
I don't think the question is whether we should tax or not tax. Taxation is important for any economy. That's how a government raises revenues. The question is on what is the best way to tax it.
Correct.
How can we mobilize government revenues in a method that does not disincentivize business? And that's something that we will have to work closely with the government, because we're not here to say let's roll back taxes. Right. That's not good for anybody. Definitely not for the economy as a whole.
All right, that's totally clear, and we hope that them that are in government are actually listening in and getting to understand the real effects of these taxes. All right, let's look into this blockchain conference that is coming through, and how financial inclusion actually just marries to blockchain. How does that work? Because someone would say, and many argue this, we do have a segment here for business, and questions coming in when it's blockchain, when it's cryptocurrencies, that's not for us. It's just for the big wigs and them that have it in the country. So just link that together, financial inclusion and blockchain. How does that marry?
Well, right now the honest answer is we don't know everything yet. Yeah. What we do know is that it has immense potential. It's like what Kwame said, the early days of the internet. You didn't know that a Google, a Facebook, an Instagram would come. Absolutely not. Yeah. But we knew that it had immense potential. So now coming to your question on the relationship between the technology, the underlying infrastructure, and financial inclusion, what gives this immense potential are a couple of attributes that this technology has. One is that it can significantly lower costs. The question is how. Right now, if you say Uganda exports a lot of labor, this labor sends remittances back into the country from the Middle East, developed countries, etc. The cost of these remittances in a good case scenario is 10% of the value that you send back home, because there is a lot of intermediaries. It goes through banks, it goes through wallets, everyone takes as a charge.
Correct.
And they're all moving through very old plumbing systems. But the blockchain allows you to do a peer-to-peer transfer and heavily reduces the cost and completely eliminates intermediaries. So that's point one. The second is security. It's extremely complicated, near impossible to reverse that transaction once you've had it on the blockchain. It's revocable and it's immutable. The third is transparency. It's a public ledger. Everybody can see it. And the fourth is immediate settlement times, because I may send you money from my American accounts, for example, if I have them, but it may take 3 days for it to hit your bank account. So that settlement, that reconciliation in the back end, sometimes is just painful, and you may not even see it, and you're chasing your bank.
But the issue, just like you mentioned, is how is the public warming up to the same? Because if we are to realize that relationship, that quote unquote marriage, so to speak, then many people have to jump on board and pretty much embrace the same. So that is an issue as well. We have to take it slowly by slowly until the masses embrace the same.
Yes, I completely agree with you. I think what the blockchain and the fourth industrial revolution tell us is that future technologies come with immense promise, but they also come with immense risks. And we need to work hand in hand, both public and private sector, to realize that we are including everyone. Otherwise, we will end up in significantly more unequal society than what we are today, because who can access frontier technologies? People who have the money and means.
Correct.
So that's where we all need to work collectively together. And I think that's one of the issues that the conference tomorrow and day after will focus on.
All right.
Yes.
Kwame. So you said that Bitcoin, and you all know this, Bitcoin was the firstborn of blockchain, so to speak. And I remember when it became a buzz, them that could afford it, were running to it, but it came to a point whereby the value of the same was fast depreciating. At this point in time, we're speaking of the value going under, so to speak, compared to when it started. So let's talk about the risks that are involved with this particular technology. Bitcoin, of course, it being the firstborn, and it being the pretty much the option that many are conversant with.
Sure, it's worth adding that what Bitcoin did is that it opened the eyes of society to a whole new realm of possibilities. The field of computer science began to explore what else could be done, because like I mentioned, before it was not possible to transfer a digital value from one person to another directly. It was historically not possible. The way it had to work is that if I'm transferring money or any form of digital asset from me to you, I have to use a third party. Whether that third party is a bank or that third party is called Visa or PayPal or MasterCard. That's the way society has worked historically. But what the Bitcoin white paper, that is the document that put forth this concept, was able to make us realize is that it is now possible to transfer value from one person to another directly. Now, just before we get to the point of risks, I just want to mention one more point. About 2 weeks ago, Facebook made this huge announcement. And in this huge announcement, Facebook was saying that they're going to launch their own cryptocurrency called Libra. Now, let's think about this for a moment. Facebook owns WhatsApp, okay,
right. Yes.
Which has about 2 billion customers right now. What this essentially means is that on my phone, in no time, I will be able to send money just like I send a message. So this is a fundamental disruption in the way society operates today. And I'll use this as the segue to get to the point of risks. Because of the announcement that Facebook made recently, there's been huge concern, backlash, rising up from different systems, different governments. And again, it is understandable. When change is coming in society, no one is very quick to embrace it. We all know in history people were killed for claiming that the earth was round.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Because the system insisted that it was flat. So this is not abnormal. So what we're going through is a process. Now, in this new technology, there are as well risks, whether it's issues of fraud, whether it's issues of laundering, and so on. But just like Rashmi said, there needs to be a collaboration, an understanding, an interaction in depth between the public and the private sector. Those in the private sector are rapidly innovating to solve the problems in society. Those in the public have a responsibility to ensure that this innovation, yes, takes society forward, but in turn risks are mitigated. And these are some of the things that we'll be addressing at the conference over the next 2 days.
At the conference. And I remember when this conversation came huge in Uganda, the commercial banks were worried, the financial sector was worried, and even the Bank of Uganda, the central bank, I remember we did have even the president articulate and saying that, hey guys, go slow on this one, because this is a high risk, these are high risk waters, and also then they're not regulated. So speak to that. Just link the risks involved, of course, with what the regulators are saying. Central bank was really like, let's first watch this space before we commit to anything, before we jump on board. So what is the current position of the stakes, the regulators, and also the current position of you as the pushers of the same?
Yes, so I'll just recap what you mentioned. At the last event that we had last year in the month of May, the central bank governor came out pretty clearly saying, let us go slow on these things.
Yes, he did.
Yes, and he was referring to cryptocurrencies. Then he said, but with blockchain, it's okay. We're ready to look at this. Then when the president spoke after him, he mentioned, let us take deeper interest. Let us take a closer look at this thing. Let us not be quick to dismiss it. That was a very significant point. Because oftentimes we take positions without sufficient amount of information. Subsequently, since then, the central bank established a blockchain working group within the bank for them to be able to make more sense of what this thing is. Because central banks world over are already looking at blockchain and looking at it to be able to solve other problems, not necessarily just this one of cryptocurrencies, but there are several other applications of the technology. In Uganda, in particular, our Capital Markets Authority, which would be the other regulator, aside from the central bank, have already drafted crypto asset regulations. So there are draft crypto asset regulations that have been made available that the sector is looking at. So the fact that we have a Capital Markets Authority that already has put out draft crypto asset regulations, the fact that we have a central bank that has set up a blockchain working group within, goes to show that the two bodies responsible for this sector are taking it relatively seriously. So they recognize what is happening globally, and they're making sure that in Uganda we take time to understand it and prepare appropriately.
All right. Before I go to Rashmi, just make us understand why did the value of Bitcoin drastically depreciate? What's happening in that space?
Yes. So when Bitcoin first came into the market, it was definitely less than $1. And it rose and went up, went down, and so on. So there was a series of reasons. There's some underlying fundamentals, but then there was also great speculation from the market. So many people jumped in because they believed it was a rising digital asset, and so they participated. It went up, came down, but again it is going up right now. I think it's broken, I think the 10 or 12,000 mark recently. So that volatility is something that people can participate in, and by people participating in, I'm referring to traders in particular, because crypto traders will make their money whether it's appreciating or depreciating. Now, aside from that,
but
remember that
when it's appreciating.
No, I'm saying the traders.
Yes.
So traders make money on margins, whether it's going up or down.
Yeah.
But in terms of either speculators or other people looking to make a quick buck, they will get in and wait for an asset to appreciate and then get out. So that is what has been happening. But in order to even address that problem, there have been several other cryptocurrencies that have been created that I mentioned initially that Bitcoin was the firstborn. The firstborn that came out opened our eyes to a whole new reality. But it had some issues within it. And now there are hundreds, if not thousands, of cryptocurrencies that have been created to address some of these issues. It's actually worth adding, just as I wrap up this point, that several of the banks globally have also come together to create their own cryptocurrency, one called Ripple. So cryptocurrencies are very unique. They have challenges, but they present great opportunity. And different sectors can tailor them to suit their specific sector.
Okay, interesting. Rashmi, you're the one who has the heart of, the masses, especially when it comes to, financial inclusion and stuff like that. Let's look at the future of this blockchain technology now that many cryptocurrencies are being birthed as well. We all know that the normal, paper, cash is what is acceptable by many, especially even in the rural areas, when it comes to it being a symbol of legal tender. And now with mobile money as well coming on board, what are the options? You're the one who is on ground. What's the likability of people, especially them that we say are not so exposed, them in the rural sector, embracing this, because the fourth industrial revolution is a reality and it's actually coming true. So what is the future holding for us?
The future is extremely bright, to answer your question. But coming to the masses, I think we should not underestimate the need for people. If you go and talk to people, if you had to quote Henry Ford and say, if you asked people what they wanted, they would say faster horses, but they didn't know that cars were an option because nobody had built a car. Right? So people did not know mobile money was an option.
Right.
People wanted cash and wanted a method where the bus or your relative will transport the cash back into the village, which was extremely risky. And then came a convenience-based option of mobile money. People may not, it's not necessary for the masses to understand the underlying infrastructure of distributed ledgers or blockchain technology. What they need to understand is what can it do for me and how can it solve my problems.
Where do they stand at this point in time?
In terms of understanding blockchain, I think even most of us don't understand blockchain. We're still discovering and learning every day. And I think it's such an amazing, revolutionary technology that it requires some humility to understand that it has power. And we need to learn more how to harness, but also respect the power and boundaries of something like this.
Kwame, is blockchain and cryptocurrencies for all, or is it just something that, as much as, we'll get to that point whereby we embrace it and we recognize it, and even we have regulators, solid regulators on board, is it something that will be for all or just for a selected few who can afford to gamble?
Okay, I want to make sure that we clearly distinguish between what the technology can do or the investment opportunities around cryptocurrencies, because I think that is where a lot of people's minds are. So it's just like asking the question, is internet for all? I mean, I can say no to that, but the reality is that it has permeated society in such an incredible way that we cannot escape from it. So similarly, I want that we recognize, like Rashmi said, the potential impact of what a technology like blockchain enables, where you transfer value from one person to another. And let us separate this from the investment opportunities in cryptocurrencies. So that is different. The technology can do so much, so it will inevitably have, and if not more, the impact similar to what the internet is having. And again, like Rashmi said, when the internet was first dawning in society, we could not foresee Instagram or Facebook or WhatsApp.
Right.
But we can now appreciate, if we look back, it is the same place where we are with blockchain. It is the beginning point. It is the potential ahead that we cannot clearly fathom, but we recognize exists.
And let's look also for, let's look at, and I want you to break it down completely, because we have hit, what's the time right now? 8, and at this bracket, we do have quite a number of business people watching. So what are the investment options and opportunities in this particular space?
Yes. I'll encourage you to come for the conference because we'll have extensive discussion on investment opportunities.
Okay, but in a nutshell, maybe if you can break it down just for the sake of them that cannot afford to come.
We want to make it affordable for as many people as possible, but the investment opportunities that people begin by speaking about are those around cryptocurrencies. And so we'll have a lot of experts globally, even from the region and locally, on cryptocurrencies and the investment opportunities that they present, whether it is at what point someone comes in to buy a cryptocurrency, if they're interested in making value, in gaining a profit from its appreciation. But that's just one of the many that will be discussed.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, it seems like you're leaving the meat to the conference and people have no option but to come. All right, then give us the details. How do we come? And of course, the conference will be tomorrow and Thursday. So are there tickets to be bought? How can someone watching us today access this?
So the conference is happening on Wednesday and Thursday, and our keynote speaker for the event has actually just flown in yesterday. His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio, the President of Sierra Leone, who flew in yesterday, and will give the keynote address at the conference tomorrow. And there are various other speakers who are flying in right now, and we'll get to Sophia in a moment. But tickets are accessible and can be bought on the website, and I'll give the details. I'll give the details right now. The website, africanblockchain.org. So that's one way of buying them, www.africanblockchain.org. The second way of buying them is through the USSD code *217*40#. *217*40#. And then the third way is through buying physical tickets. And so there are two ticket sales points. There's one at MTN Forest Mall, the MTN shop there, and then also at Century Cinema at Acacia Mall. So we have these options for where people can get their tickets.
How much does a ticket go for?
So the tickets are currently going for 500,000 shillings.
Okay. Per person?
Per person, yes. Right. And that's for 2 days at Serena. We've actually as well put out tickets for attendance for 1 day. So the half price of that is also an option for which someone can get a ticket for 1 day. Now, I'll also add that we're also having a tech expo, a large tech exhibition that will be happening at the lower area at Serena, where people can actually experience and see these things firsthand, what fourth industrial revolution technologies are and can do. Artificial intelligence, 3D printing, big data, robotics, drones, and so much more. So those two events will be happening simultaneously. The Tech Expo, which is 15,000 shillings. So if someone wants to go for the Tech Expo alone, they can pay 15,000 shillings. If someone wants to come for the conference, and by conference that means conference and Tech Expo, that's the one that 500,000 shillings.
2 days.
Yes, for the 2 days.
Okay, all right. So, and for the exhibitors, are the slots full?
Actually, exhibitors, when I checked last night, they were full.
Okay.
Yes, and it's actually great for people to come and see the things that are being done in Uganda. I was fascinated when I saw someone doing 3D printing. And 3D printing is one of the most amazing technologies, because we can't, basically what is happening is that people are creating all sorts of devices instantly, whether it's glasses, whether it's pens, through printing. And there was a surgery that just happened in South Africa.
I saw that. Yes. Yeah.
Where a 3D printed inner ear was used to support someone. So 3D printing is fascinating. So these are some of the things that will be demonstrated at the exhibition.
All right. Rashmi.
Yeah.
He mentioned 500,000 Uganda shillings per head, and I was here just avoiding to look at Rashmi, but let me just ask you this. Why don't you want these people to bring this costs down so that a majority who you are totally passionate about can get to attend such events and get this information?
I cannot look. I don't think it's my place to comment on this. I have been part of conferences and organized conferences, and they're extremely hard to do, and to get people in a place, and then they're getting such a big tech expo. They're getting Sophia, the first humanoid. All of this comes with costs. I can imagine. I think the larger point that you're trying to raise is that let's not keep this elitist. This can be a brain trust, but then it needs to permeate below. And how can we revolutionize how information is shared that these amazing people bring together? And I believe Kwame and his team are already thinking about this.
Okay, just on this table, now that the two of you are here, is it something that maybe you plan towards, such that you create a platform, an affordable platform for many, so that also this information, is given out to the masses? Is it something that you're thinking about?
Yes. So the answer directly to that is yes.
Yes.
And the challenge that event organizers often have is being able to meet the costs of what they're doing, but also the realities, match it to the realities of the market. Now, it's something that we are fully aware of, and we've been working at it. It's also worth adding that this is the most affordable blockchain conference that has happened in Africa. But going forward, what we are going to be organizing at A4.0 summits. So we are laying the foundation for something going ahead. And we are fully aware and strongly believe in the reality that we must make this affordable for as many people as possible. So we are going out to begin working our sponsors, to getting our partners, such that we can ultimately make it affordable for those who matter most, whether it's young innovators, whether it's the young people of the future, because this technology is going to have most impact in their lifetime. So we want them to participate in it now.
Exactly, because especially now, if we're talking about this sector growing, then we need to bring as many people on board, make as many people as possible understand it. Understanding is key, because at this point in time, everyone just has their own word, but pretty much they really don't know what the key is. But as we bring this to a close, Rashmi, what are your last remarks?
First and foremost, I think blockchain is representative of it's used very loosely as a representative of the fourth industrial revolution a lot of times. As Kwame mentioned, a couple of things, apart from cryptocurrency, where a large part of the focus has been, the focus needs to shift to the power of these technologies, to artificial intelligence, to robotics, 3D printing, etc., because they will revolutionize economies. 3D printing, as he says, will revolutionize manufacturing and how that can happen in the future. That has an implication on jobs. That has an implication on economic growth, and where we as policymakers and the private sector need to be looking at. So let's not, focus. It's very cool and it has a lot of hype to focus on cryptocurrencies, but I think we should look to the underlying technology and how it can help us become more competitive as a country.
All right, comment.
Agreed. And I'll just pick up on what Rashmi was saying. The theme for the event is preparing Africa for the fourth industrial revolution. And the series of sessions and breakouts and talks are not necessarily going to be about a technology called blockchain or an application called cryptocurrencies, but the reality of what the fourth industrial revolution presents. This includes important topics like the future of work. The future of jobs is such a critical thing, because I'll just give one quick example. We visited a school in Uganda, in Kampala, that was telling us that their 12-year-old class, the students that are currently 12-year-olds, 65% of their jobs, by the time they graduated, have not yet been invented. Now, the future of work is so important, and we're going to have sessions on it with people even from Ministry of Education, because there has to be a shift in several things. It's the curriculum, it's the policies, it's preparing our young minds for the inevitability that lies ahead. So the event, yes, has a technology foundation, but it is looking at the larger scope of things, and that is what we want to invite people to participate in.
And that's quite critical, because artificial intelligence is already here. Last week we were having conversations to do with the accounting space, and our majority was saying that this is the time for us to shift how we've been operating, because AI is here, and many business people are actually opting for this tech options, because number one, like Rashmi said, the security, number one, efficiency is on another level, and also now many positions are being rendered redundant thanks to AI. So that shift has to occur. Thank you so much for coming in studios. Rashmi Pillai, Executive Director for Financial Sector Deepening Uganda. Thank you so much. And also Mr. Kwame Rugunda, CEO, Crypto Savannah, right here in the country. They are the initiators of the Africa Blockchain Conference, which will be taking place tomorrow and Thursday, that being the 3rd and 4th of July. Thank you so much for being part of us. We are taking a short commercial break. Don't go too far. Morning at 10 TV still continues.
Daily Monitor.